We'd also like to take a moment to recognize the original inhabitants of the land upon which we are gathered today. We honor the Anishinaabe, the Council of...
Stop scrolling. An $850 million mega project just blew up in its own face on opening day. You will not believe the level of irony caught on tape. Watch this.
The Ojibwe, the Odawa, and the Potawatomi nations. And to our family and friends whose unwavering love and support help sustain us throughout this incredible journey, thank you.
Wait, did you catch that? They are literally standing at the grand opening of an $850 million presidential library, a monument built with massive resources and political power. And one of the first things they do on stage is declare that the land it's built on is stolen. You genuinely cannot make up this level of irony. It's the ultimate paradox of modern political theater. They are pouring concrete and claiming legacy while simultaneously apologizing for the very dirt they're standing on. Look at the crowd's reaction, or rather, the complete normalization of this happening at a presidential center. What makes this so wild is that it immediately sets a tone of guilt over a project that's supposed to be a crowning achievement. If the land is truly stolen, handing over a moment of silence doesn't exactly return it to the original inhabitants, does it? It's performative activism at its absolute peak, packaged inside a multi-million-dollar real estate development. The sheer cognitive dissonance of clapping for a stolen land acknowledgement while cutting a ribbon for a massive estate is just mind-blowing.
Black contractors are complaining about they have not got their money, but the other side of it, a lot of the black community and the newspapers do not know that these people have not been paid. Contractors are already in bankruptcy. That's what they're saying, that if it wasn't the fact that they worked on this Obama project, they would not be under this type of problem.
This is the part that the mainstream cameras desperately tried to ignore. You have a project championed by one of the most powerful political families in modern history, sitting on a nearly billion-dollar budget. Yet the actual blue-collar workers, specifically minority contractors from the community, are being pushed into absolute bankruptcy. Look at the frustration of the people speaking out here. They were sold a dream of local economic revival and empowerment, but the reality is they are left holding the bag for millions in unpaid labor. How does a massive foundation with endless corporate donors fail to pay the very people pouring the foundation? It completely shatters the PR narrative of community building when the folks doing the physical building are having their livelihoods destroyed. The project managers are passing the buck, and meanwhile, local businesses are getting wrecked. This isn't just a slight oversight. It's a massive systemic failure right in the middle of Chicago's South Side. When the ribbon gets cut, the elite get the photo op, but the working class gets a one-way ticket to financial ruin.
Most needy and the most vulnerable among us. Alarmingly, 11 of the 15 charged defendants are suspected illegal aliens, some of whom assumed stolen identities to steal these taxpayer-funded benefits and avoid detection.
Investigators say they are still working.
Look closely at the details this U.S. attorney is laying out, because the scale is staggering. We are talking about multiple foreign nationals arrested in a massive $1.4 million fraud scheme targeting SNAP and Medicaid, programs designed strictly as a safety net for vulnerable, struggling citizens. This isn't some tiny administrative error. This is organized theft utilizing stolen identities to siphon off taxpayer funds. The scope of this operation is what's truly alarming, especially when officials admit they are just scratching the surface. It immediately exposes the massive vulnerabilities in our state and federal systems. When individuals who shouldn't even be in the system are successfully bypassing identity verification to drain welfare funds, you have to ask who is actually guarding the vault. We constantly hear the narrative that unauthorized immigration only impacts the labor market, but this right here is direct financial sabotage of resources meant for the neediest families. It is an absolute slap in the face to everyday taxpayers who fund these programs and the vulnerable citizens waiting in line for help.
Those and provide hope to everybody.
We heard from the governor, but we haven't heard from you yet about this investigation. What do you want to say?
I'm just so grateful for this inspiration and leadership. We need more of this.
Hey, This is stuff that happens in other countries. That's all I'll say. Happens in other countries. Who wants to go after me, go after me.
It's nice to see both of you.
Watch the body language right here. This is a masterclass in absolute political deflection. A reporter corners the governor about an ongoing investigation, and instead of giving a transparent answer or addressing the citizens of his state, he immediately deflects with, "Stuff happens in other countries." What does that even mean? It's the ultimate non-answer. He completely ignores the substance of the question, throws up a smokescreen, and basically dares them to come after him. This kind of arrogant dismissal is exactly why trust in political leadership is hitting rock bottom. He's standing in front of cameras, flashing a $1 million smile, but refusing to offer basic accountability. It's fascinating to watch politicians pivot in real time when they lose control of the narrative. Notice how quickly he shifts the focus away from the scandal and tries to manufacture an international excuse out of thin air. Instead of addressing the concerns of voters or the media, he treats the confrontation like an annoying fly he just needs to swat away.
One word to describe your next chapter. One word.
Fun.
Me.
Listen to that answer. One word to describe her next chapter, and she proudly chooses me. On one hand, you could say it's empowering, right? But given the context of an $850 million public legacy project and the optics of dropping the mic on national television, it comes off as incredibly self-centered. This is a highly calculated PR rollout, and this clip was clearly supposed to be the quirky viral moment of the morning. Instead, it really shines a light on a sort of detached elitism. When millions of people are actively struggling with inflation, housing, and basic survival, seeing a former leader drop the mic and declare her era of me feels wildly out of touch. The lack of self-awareness here is wild. It's almost as if the entire concept of public service has been permanently swapped out for celebrity brand building. It's no longer about what they can do for the country. It's about cashing in on cultural cachet. It's a brief moment, but it speaks absolute volumes about where her priorities actually are right now.
That I should be disbanded and reformed. And I believe that the Department of Homeland Security was created in response to an immediate threat or perceived threat to our well-being, and we just put everything in it. And that in and of itself, it needs to be demanded.
Did you catch what this official just advocated for? She is blatantly calling on camera to completely disband the Department of Homeland Security and shut down enforcement agencies. This isn't an internet troll. This is a sitting lawmaker demanding the dismantling of the primary infrastructure responsible for national security. At a time when we are seeing record levels of border encounters, organized retail theft, and massive state-level fraud schemes like the one we literally just saw in Massachusetts, the proposed solution from this wing of politics is to essentially fire the security guards. It's a radical shift in policy being spoken about casually on a hot mic. The rationale she uses, that it was created for a perceived threat, completely ignores the very real, immediate threats occurring daily across the country. It perfectly highlights the massive disconnect between ideological politicians and the everyday safety concerns of average citizens. When the people elected to protect the system are actively lobbying to strip away the infrastructure of that protection, it leaves you wondering who is actually steering the ship.
It's coming, all of these new buyers want to come in and they want to take over the land that has already been here and kick out the people that have been here. It's kind of sad to see how money could be such a strong factor to swoop in and knock people off of their feet, people who have been here.
We are saying yes to Obama against...
Listen to the raw emotion from these local residents. This is the dark side of massive urban revitalization projects that the media PR teams desperately try to hide. They are staring down a mega complex that is supposed to honor a legacy, but all they see is a bulldozer coming for their neighborhoods. The irony is just staggering. A project built to celebrate community organizing is actively triggering massive gentrification, skyrocketing rents, and displacing the very marginalized communities it claims to represent. These folks are saying yes to the idea, but no to being kicked out of their homes by wealthy developers swooping in. It's a classic tale of big money rolling over working-class citizens, but it stings even more because it's packaged in the language of hope and change. When legacy and monuments take priority over the actual human beings living on those streets, the entire moral foundation of the project collapses. It's incredibly sad to watch these lifelong residents realize they are just collateral damage in a high-stakes real estate game.
Leslie Luttrell, that woman that you just saw, she said, you know, President Trump can relate to poor people, that he was born with a gold spoon in his mouth. She lives at an extended stay motel, and she's afraid that she is going to lose SNAP, that she's going to lose Medicaid, and she doesn't know what she's going to do. She said, and here's how she described it. She said, living during Trump's second term is like living in the Great Depression. And she voted for President Trump.
This clip perfectly encapsulates the absolute grip that media fear-mongering has on vulnerable people. Here is a woman living in a motel, terrified that she is going to lose her basic benefits simply because of who might win an election. The reporter frames it as a grounded reality, when in truth, it's a masterclass in psychological manipulation by the political machine. Networks actively weaponize the anxieties of the poorest citizens, feeding them doomsday scenarios to ensure their viewing loyalty. Notice how the narrative is completely devoid of policy facts. It's 100% pure emotional terror. It is heartbreaking to see someone in an already precarious living situation being mentally tortured by the idea that a Great Depression is coming to wipe her out. This isn't journalism. It's narrative warfare, designed to keep lower-income brackets paralyzed by fear. Instead of empowering her or explaining how the system actually works, they use her panic for ratings. It exposes how the media complex treats poverty not as a problem to solve, but as an emotion to exploit.
A belief that our military and law enforcement owe allegiance not to any president or political party, but to the people and our Constitution. A belief in the peaceful transfer of power after the people have spoken in fair and free elections, recognizing that in a large complex...
Pay attention to the specific phrasing here. On a day that is supposed to be a unifying celebration, the rhetoric immediately pivots into a targeted, thinly veiled attack on a political rival. He talks about the military owing allegiance to the Constitution and not a single leader, a clear, calculated jab. Now, regardless of where you stand politically, look at the underlying strategy at play. Even in moments meant for legacy building, the political elite simply cannot turn off the partisan warfare. The hypocrisy is what catches your eye. You cannot preach about unity and a peaceful transfer of power while actively stoking the fires of division during your own grand opening. It shows that the permanent political campaign never actually stops. Every speech, every ribbon cutting, and every monument is weaponized for the current news cycle. It turns what should be a historical reflection into just another exhausting episode of tribal politics. It's a stark reminder that in modern Washington, there are absolutely no neutral moments left.
People of all backgrounds, is they will see themselves in these floors. America will see itself, and I'm saying all of America, regardless of political party, regardless of whether you voted for us or like us or have nasty things to say about us or not, or love us, you will walk through these halls and you will feel seen here.
Take a look at this final piece of rhetoric. You will see yourself in these floors. It's the kind of glossy, focus-grouped political poetry that sounds amazing in a soundbite, but actually means absolutely nothing. This is the ultimate hallmark of elite political messaging, promising an emotional, spiritual connection to an $850 million concrete building. But let's be real here. Working-class Americans struggling with inflation and housing don't need to see themselves in the floors of a mega library. They need to see themselves surviving the economy. This relentless obsession with performative representation feels incredibly hollow when placed right next to the displaced locals and the bankrupt contractors we just broke down. It highlights the massive gap between the poetic promises of politicians and the harsh, on-the-ground reality of their actions. They are selling an expensive illusion of inclusion, while the actual community outside those walls is actively fighting for survival. It's a perfect visual metaphor for modern politics, a beautiful billion-dollar facade hiding a fundamentally broken foundation underneath. The disconnect between the cameras and reality is getting wider every day. Hit subscribe if you want to see what they actually try to hide.